All right, let's get straight into it. Right now, the entire future of professional women's basketball is hanging in the balance. We are not exaggerating. The clock is ticking down to a deadline that could lead to the first work stoppage in the history of the WNBA. As we speak, players and league owners are locked in a war of numbers, principles, and trust. And the two sides are so far apart, they can't even agree on what reality is. The deadline is January 9th. That is imminent, and what's on the table isn't just a pay raise. It's a fundamental fight over what this booming league is truly worth, who gets a share in its explosive growth, and what the next 30 years will look like. The players have already voted overwhelmingly to give their leadership the power to call a strike. They have that weapon loaded and ready to go. But here's the shocking part. The league's owners are staring them down, armed with their own financial projections that sound like a worst-case nightmare. This isn't a simple negotiation. This is a high-stakes game of financial chicken, fueled by billions in new money and a deep, simmering rift between the people who play the game and the people who run the business. What you're about to see is the breakdown of a battle where both sides believe they're fighting for the league's survival, and only one of them can be right. Let's start with the two competing visions for the WNBA's future, because they are worlds apart. On one side, you have the WNBA league office and the team owners. Their latest offer is historic, at least on the surface. They propose raising the maximum player's salary from about $250,000 to over $1.3 million in the first year. The average salary would jump from around $120,000 to more than $530,000. And for rookies and end-of-bench players, the minimum salary would skyrocket to over $250,000. The salary cap itself would more than triple from $1.5 million to around $5 million. This sounds like a massive win, right? The players should be celebrating, but they're not. In fact, they've rejected it outright. Why? Because of one critical, contentious phrase: net revenue. The league's offer is to give players in excess of 50% of the league's net revenue. Net means after all the expenses are paid. After you deduct the cost of charter flights, which the league says cost $25 million a year, arena rentals, staff salaries, security, marketing, and everything else it takes to run the business, the players get a big piece of what's left over. The owners frame this as a fair partnership in the league's profitability. They argue it aligns incentives. If the league makes more money, the players' share grows. But it also means the players bear the risk of the league spending. If operational costs rise, their piece of the pie shrinks before they ever see it. This model is standard in profitable leagues, but it hinges on one thing: there actually being a substantial profit to share. Now, let's look at the players' counterproposal, led by Union President Nneka Agwamike. They are demanding something completely different. They want a guaranteed 30% of gross revenue. Gross means all the money that comes in the door before a single bill is paid. The union argues that the players, who provide the labor and drive the value, shouldn't be paid last. They shouldn't have their share determined after owners account for all their business expenses, which the players have no control over. They see gross revenue as the only transparent, uncuttable number. Under this model, the players propose a salary cap closer to $10.5 million, more than double the league's offer. This is the core of the standoff. It's a philosophical chasm. One side says, share in the profit. The other side says, we are the product, pay us from the top. It's a fundamental disagreement over whether players are employees whose pay can be diminished by costs, or primary stakeholders entitled to a fixed cut of the gross income they generate. And this is where the numbers get absolutely staggering. The league, based on its internal financial audits, ran the math in the union's 30% gross revenue model. Their projection? It would cause $700 million in losses over the life of the new contract. To put that in perspective, that one contract would lose more money than the entire WNBA lost in its first 29 years combined. The league calls this proposal financial suicide, a direct path to insolvency that would scare away any potential future owner. But here's the twist. The players' union responded immediately, calling that $700 million loss figure absolutely false. They believe their model still leaves the league in a profitable position, accusing the league of using inflated expense projections and pessimistic revenue forecasts to make their offer seem generous. So, who's telling the truth? How can two groups look at the same business and see such radically different futures? The answer lies not just in math, but in what each side includes in that math. And that leads us to a single massive pot of money that has become the most controversial topic in these talks. A pot of money the players see as proof of riches, and the league sees as an accounting mirage that could vanish if you try to spend it. To understand this fight, you have to look at the biggest boom in WNBA history: expansion. The league is exploding from 12 teams to 18. New franchises in Golden State, Portland, Toronto, and recently announced teams in Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia. And these aren't charity cases. The price to get in has gone through the roof. Golden State paid an estimated $50 million. Portland paid $75 million. The three newest cities? Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia are each paying a record-shattering $250 million just for the right to join the league. Altogether, we're talking about nearly $1.5 billion in expansion fees pouring into the league and its existing owners. For the players, this is the ultimate gotcha moment. Union President Nneka Ogwumike has publicly asked a critical question: how can there be $250 million expansion fees and no openness to have that be reflected in revenue share that goes to players? The players see this as pure, undeniable profit for owners. Real money hitting their bank accounts, a direct result of the league's skyrocketing value, a value the players created through their talent and the record-breaking audience they've drawn in. This seems like an open and shut argument. You can't have fees that high and claim poverty. But then you hear the league's explanation, and the picture gets murky. The WNBA argues that expansion fees are not operational revenue. They are one-time payments, a capital infusion, not annual income. Here's the tricky accounting. When a new team pays $250 million, that money is typically split among the existing team owners as compensation for a very specific reason. That new team is now going to take a slice of all future shared league revenue, from the TV deals, from merchandise, from everything. So the existing owners get a big check up front, but forever after, their annual share of the pie gets smaller. The league's position is that it's a financial restructuring, not pure profit. You're trading future, recurring revenue for a lump sum today to fund long-term growth initiatives. Furthermore, the WNBA is trying to model its business after the big leagues. And in those leagues, the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, expansion fees are explicitly excluded from the revenue pools that are shared with players. Those leagues treat them as payments for the dilution of the existing owner's equity stake in the overall league. If WNBA players successfully win a share of expansion fees, it would be unprecedented in major North American sports and could set an earth-shaking precedent that would send shockwaves through every other league. The owners argue this would fundamentally break the economic model of league expansion. This debate is a perfect symbol of the entire negotiation. The players are looking at the massive sale price of the house and saying, "We helped build this. We deserve a cut of that sale." The owners are looking at the mortgage, the property taxes, and the maintenance costs of the new, bigger neighborhood and saying, "This isn't disposable income. It's capital to keep the whole project from collapsing. And if we give away, there's no money left to build the new rooms." But this fight isn't just about spreadsheets and accounting rules. It's also about something much more personal and corrosive: trust. And behind the scenes, that trust is completely shattered over issues that go far beyond the balance sheet. WNBPA President Nneka Ogwumike recently gave a telling interview. She didn't just talk about money. She described the feeling in the negotiating room. Her words were damning. "I don't feel like there's any cultivation of a culture of trust. We don't feel valued in these talks. I feel like we've been heard, but not listened to." The sentiment of being negotiated at rather than with exploded into public view over a seemingly smaller issue: housing. In its proposal, the WNBA League office suggested eliminating team-provided housing. Under the current deal, teams must provide apartments or stipends, a crucial benefit for rookies, international players, or anyone traded or cut with little notice. For many, this housing is a lifeline, providing stability in a career known for its volatility. Veteran star Natasha Cloud took to social media and blasted the idea. She framed it as an attack on the most vulnerable players. This makes no sense for the younger players, for the players that get cut and are stuck in leases, let alone talking about player safety. Her post went viral, and the hashtag We Want Team Housing became a rallying cry. For the players, this wasn't just about a perk. It was a signal. At the very moment the league was offering higher salaries on paper, it was proposing to take away a foundational element of security, especially for non-superstars. It felt like a bait and switch, giving with one hand while taking a crucial safety net with the other. The league's rationale: according to sources, was about professionalization, treating WNBA players like other pro athletes who find their own housing. But to the players, it felt like a betrayal and a step backward, a move that ignored the unique financial realities and security concerns many of them face, especially when compared to their male counterparts who earn exponentially more to cover such costs. And the housing issue is just one example of this trust deficit. The league has also proposed starting training camp much earlier, which players see as a direct infringement on their ability to earn vital income playing overseas in the offseason, income that often dwarfs their WNBA salary. They're battling over the dreaded core designation, the WNBA's version of a franchise tag that can restrict a star's free agency for years, a tool players feel is used to control their careers. They're fighting for better mental health benefits, equitable parental leave for non-birthing parents, and improved retirement funds. Every one of these issues feeds that central feeling of not being valued as whole people and partners. The players see a league enjoying historic growth, record TV ratings, sold-out arenas, soaring franchise values, and feel the offers on the table don't reflect their true worth or their role in creating this boom. They look at their current share of the revenue pie and see the proof of being undervalued for decades. This history is why the percentage gap isn't just a number. It's the core of their grievance. So, just how big is the gap between the WNBA and other leagues? The numbers are startling. Under the old CBA, WNBA players received only about 9% to 10% of the league's total revenue. Compare that to the major men's leagues. NBA players are guaranteed between 49% and 51% of all basketball-related income. NFL players get around 48%. NHL players about 50%. The WNBA's share isn't just lower. It's in a different universe. This is the players' most powerful moral and equitable argument. They are not, as star Kelsey Plum has clarified, asking for NBA-level salaries. They are asking for an NBA-level share or percentage of the revenue they generate. They argue, why is our labor valued so differently? If we generate the entertainment, why do we get less than a tenth of the income, while men get half? It's a question about fairness in the entertainment economy. The league counters with the brutal economics of a young business. The NBA generates over $10 billion a year in revenue and operates at a massive profit. The WNBA's entire revenue, even after its new TV deal, is a fraction of that. Yet many fixed costs, like charter flights, elite facilities, marketing, and front office staff, are similar regardless of revenue size. The WNBA has, by its own accounting, been operating at a loss for years, subsidized by the NBA and patient owners viewing it as a long-term project. Their argument is pragmatic. You can't split a profit that doesn't exist yet. Giving 50% of nothing is still nothing. They contend the players' share must grow in tandem with actual profitability, not precede it. However, the players have a new, powerful card to play, the $2.2 billion media rights deal. Starting in 2026, the WNBA's new contract with Disney, NBC, and Amazon will pour about $200 million a year into the league, a six-fold increase from the past. That's an extra $140 million in annual revenue landing right now. The players see this and say the era of we're losing money is over, or should be. This new cash infusion, they believe, changes everything and finally provides a pool of money needed for a transformative deal without bankrupting the league. They argue the owners want to use this new money to cover old losses and operational costs first, rather than prioritizing the labor that made the deal possible. But even with this new money, analysis suggests the league's current proposal would still see the players' share of total revenue start at less than 15% and actually decrease over the life of the contract. For players fighting for respect and a true partnership, that is unacceptable. It feels like moving the goalposts. But within this fight for a bigger overall pie, there's another hidden battle brewing, a civil war over how that pie gets sliced among the players themselves. The public face of the union is its superstar president, Nneka Ogwumike, and an executive committee filled with max salary players. They are fighting for a system that could create the first true seven-figure salaries in league history. But what about the other 80% of the roster? Some agents and league insiders are quietly expressing a major concern that the union's push for a high supermax salary could actually hurt the rank-and-file player. Here's the math. Under one union proposal, a supermax contract could be worth 20% of the total team salary cap. That means just one player could take up a fifth of all the money available for the entire roster. Two superstars could eat up 40%. In a league with a hard salary cap and only 12 roster spots, this creates brutal, zero-sum choices for general managers. An agent put the problem bluntly. 15% of the cap as a max salary makes it doable. Otherwise, you must have almost every max player ready to take a 10 to 30% salary cut just to form a competitive team. The nightmare scenario is a team with 2 or 3 superstars on mega deals surrounded by minimum salary rookies, with a middle class of solid, reliable veteran players. The glue of any team, completely squeezed out. Does a rising tide lift all boats? Or do the biggest yachts suck all the water from the harbor? This tension underscores the immense complexity of the players' fight. They need a deal that lifts the ceiling for superstars to keep up with market value without sacrificing the floor or evaporating the middle for the players who fill out the rosters and provide depth. It's a delicate balancing act. They are also fighting to shorten rookie-scale contracts to allow young stars to reach free agency and get paid faster, and to increase the number of fully guaranteed contracts per team. It's a multi-front war against the owners for more money, and internally for a distribution system that doesn't leave key contributors behind. The union leadership has to negotiate for the superstars who drive media attention while protecting the role players who make teams function. It's a test of whether the collective in collective bargaining can hold. All of these clashes over gross versus net revenue, over expansion fees, over housing, over internal salary structure have led to one inevitable, high-stakes question. With the deadline here, what happens if they simply can't make a deal? The answer takes us into uncharted and risky territory. January 9th is not a magic strike button. If the deadline passes without a deal, the league and union are expected to enter a status quo period. The old CBA rules would stay in effect, and negotiations would continue. Free agency might be delayed. The expansion draft for new teams, which can't happen without a new CBA, will be put on hold. But games are not immediately canceled. The real threat of a work stoppage, a player strike, or an owner lockout looms for later as the May season opener approaches. The players have authorized their leaders to call a strike, if necessary, a powerful tool they've never used before, but it's a weapon that could backfire spectacularly. A prolonged strike during the 2026 season would be a catastrophe for the league's white-hot momentum. It would sideline Caitlin Clark in what should be her pivotal sophomore year, squander unprecedented public interest, and tell casual fans who just tuned in to go find something else to watch. The players are betting that the league and the NBA owners who back it cannot afford to waste this cultural moment. They believe the pressure to capitalize on this surge is the owners' greatest weakness. But what if the owners are willing to call that bet? Some insiders believe the NBA, which has subsidized the WNBA for decades, views it as a generational investment. The new owners just paid $250 million each for teams that won't even play for several years. They are playing a decades-long game. They might calculate that a short-term stoppage to establish sustainable, profitable economics is worth the pain, even if it means missing a season. As one agent speculated, the message from the very top might be firm. He's going to step in and say, "Ladies, we're not moving on this." The path to a deal is narrow but exists. It likely involves a painful, principled compromise from both sides. The players may have to move off their demand for a direct share of expansion fees and accept a model based on net revenue or a hybrid. But in return, the league would have to make that net revenue share huge, starting significantly higher than 50%, with ironclad, transparent auditing to build the trust that is currently gone. They would have to drop the most unpopular professionalization asks, like eliminating housing, and offer major concessions on issues like the core designation and guaranteed contracts. They would have to find a way to dramatically lift salaries while protecting roster-building flexibility, perhaps by phasing in cap increases or creating new revenue streams for player pay. What we are witnessing is the most critical negotiation in the history of women's professional team sports. This is not just about paychecks. It is about power, respect, and defining the economic soul of the league that is finally, after 30 years, hitting its stride. The players are fighting for a transformative deal that treats them as true partners. The owners are fighting for a sustainable model that protects their billion-dollar investments. One side will have to blink, or both will have to move. The future of the WNBA depends on who it is, what they agree to when they do, and whether that agreement can build a bridge over the chasm of distrust that divides them today. This story is far from over. What do you think will happen? Will the players strike? Will the owners lock them out? Or will there be a last-minute deal? Let me know your predictions in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the explosive update when this deadline hits.